What's 2FA security on Kraken? Let's say I'm captaining my soccer team, and we're up by a goal against, I don't know, Soda Springs FC. Do we relax? No way. Time to create an extra line of defense and protect that lead. That's like 2FA on Kraken, a surefire way to keep what you already have, safe and sound. Go to kraken.com and see what crypto can be. Not investment advice. Crypto trading involves risk of loss. Cryptocurrency services are provided to U.S. and U.S. territory customers by Payward Interactive Inc., PWI DBA Kraken. View PWI's disclosures at kraken.com/legal/disclosures.
Ryan Reynolds here for, I guess, my 100th Mint commercial. No, don't. I mean, honestly, when I started this, I thought I only have to do like 4 of these. I mean, it's unlimited premium wireless for $15 a month. How are there still people paying 2 or 3 times that much? I'm sorry, I shouldn't be victim blaming here. Give it a try at mintmobile.com/save. Whenever you're ready.
$45 upfront payment equivalent to $15 per month. New customers on first 3-month plan only. Taxes and fees extra. Speed slower above 40 gigabytes. See details.
Good morning, guys, and welcome to the podcast. I'm really delighted for today's guest, Dr. Jim Schleckser. He goes by Jim, and he is founder and CEO of the CEO Project, and it's a executive coaching company for high revenue entrepreneurs. He's also author and host the Lazy CEO podcast. I'm really interested to hear his thoughts on being a lazy CEO, and I'm really delighted to have him on the show. So Jim, welcome.
Thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
Yeah. So briefly, just introduce yourself, your story, how you got started, what you do, and we'll dive into the questions.
Yeah, no problem. Engineer, MBA, and very early in my career, started running companies for other people when I was 29, actually, and went through multiple kinds of companies and sizes of company, from sort of small startup to mid-size to fairly large publicly traded company. And for the last 20 years, what I've done is run a CEO advisory business, is where we coach and help CEOs scale their businesses to new sizes, help them improve their talent, their processes, and their strategy to do some kind of geek on business improvement, business strategy, and most particularly CEO effectiveness, which is what the book Great CEOs Are Lazy is really about. And I really do enjoy what I do. I'm blessed to be in a happy place.
Yeah, and you have a lot of interesting ideas that I wanted to pick your brain on. And so the first question I have for you, because like a lot of people view CEOs as very high charging, highly motivated, very driven, ambitious. What is, and you talk about how being a lazy CEO makes you better. Expand on that.
Yeah, there is a myth. And the myth is that working hard correlates to results. And it's just not right. And yet we still maintain this model of you got to work 80 hours a week. You got to show up at 8 o'clock and leave at 5. And people probably listening here maybe even impose that on their people that work for them. They say, hey, I need to see you to know you're working. And this was a struggle we had with virtual during COVID. But it turns out that the really good CEOs, and I've interviewed thousands and thousands of CEOs of all size companies, all different industries, the really good ones, what they do is they identify the most critical thing to spend their time on, and I'll talk about that in a minute, and they spend 30 to 40% of their time on it. It doesn't sound like a ton, but since most people spend almost no time on the critical issue, they're way ahead of the game. And the idea goes back to a theory from an Israeli physicist by the name of Eli Goldratt. Goldratt talked about what he called theory of constraints. That's the theory that this all sits on. By the way, these CEOs never said theory of constraints. I applied the theory of constraints because it was clear that's what they were talking about. Even though they didn't know it, they did it by their gut. So think about, and Goldratt said that any system you can name has a point of constraint that controls the performance of the entire system. So think of a simple system. A garden hose gets a kink in the hose. The kink is now controlling the performance of the entire hose. And the only way to improve the performance of the hose is to find the kink and open it up. And so the same thing's true in your business or your practice. There's a point of constraint that controls the performance of your business, whether it's the amount of revenue you generate, your bill rate, your profitability, the number of clients you serve, whatever your issue is, what your objective is, there's usually one most material point of constraint that dictates how well you perform against that particular item. And your job as the leader is find it and open it up. Now, the other corollary to that idea is if that's the most valuable work I can do, everything else is less important and I should spend less time on it. And what that frees you to do is to delegate, defer, get rid of all these things that keep you busy 60, 70, 80 hours a week, because you know that the thing that's going to actually drive the performance of your business is working on that point of constraint and not all this other junk that we spend our time on. Consequently, as a leader, you can work normal kinds of hours and still get really amazing results in your business.
Yeah, and you've actually written several books talking about just lazy CEOs, and so all these resources will be in the show notes. The book is Great CEOs Are Lazy. You also have a professional drinking, sounds like a networking type for entrepreneurs and business owners. The next question I have for you is, because you talk about the art of negotiation and you talk about the secrets to lose negotiating, whereas most people talk about win. So I'm really interested to hear that.
Yeah. And it's designed to be a little bit of a head scratcher because everybody does say win. And I say lose just as good as win. And what do I mean by that? You think about a stable resolution of a negotiation. And if it's win-lose, it's actually unstable. I used to work for a guy who his goal was to have win-lose negotiations. He wanted to win, dominate these people, put little traps and secrets into his contracts, and he could weasel his way out of it. Clearly a win-lose negotiator, and never built really stable long-term relationships. Everybody's seeking win-win, and man, that's great if you can do it. But really what you're doing is you're building lose. And what I mean by that is I'm going to lose a little bit. I'm not going to get exactly what I want. You're not going to get exactly what you want, but we're both going to get enough of what we want that we can be happy with it. And so some people might say that's win-win, but it's actually lose because we start up here and we end up a little bit below it. We're still happy enough to continue the relationship. I'll give you an example. I had a negotiation not that long ago with an attorney over lawyers' bills. And I think the bill was $120,000. And we ended up saying we can't quite pay $120 for a whole bunch of reasons. And we ended up at a lower number that he wanted, but a higher number that I wanted. So that wasn't win. He lost a little bit and I lost a little bit, but frankly, we're both happy with the outcome because he got paid and I resolved the open lawyer bill. So lose is just as stable a solution. So you want to look at where are the areas I can give that give me the minimum amount of pain, that the maximum amount of enjoyment for the other side. In other words, it really matters to them and it doesn't matter so much for me. So I'm going to lose a little something, but they're going to gain something they like. And probably if you're on the other side trying to find a solution, you should be thinking exactly the same thing. What can I give up that really matters to Jim, let's say, and he'll really be happy about, but I don't care so much about, so I'm going to lose something, but it's not a big deal for me to lose it. So win and lose, both stable. You can seek either one. And I think ultimately all resolutions have a bit of both in there.
Yeah, that's really interesting and very insightful. It's just as long as both sides get what they want, or kind of 80 or 90% of what they're looking for, as opposed to one side getting something and the other side losing. The other question, so I have a couple questions, and one thing is you talk about master your strategy and outmaneuver the competition. That's really prevalent in today's time. So expand upon that for the audience.
Yeah. So strategy is, boy, I could talk about strategy for 2 hours. When you're thinking about strategy, you want to think like a systems thinker. And it's a little bit of a rare skill. People that can connect the dots over time and understand dependencies and so forth. To some extent, when we talk about doctors, they diagnose symptoms, but sometimes they're not looking at the systematic issue that's actually going on. Good ones do, of course. Good strategy people do the same. They might observe certain things going on in the market and try to understand the underlying symptoms and how they can influence it. And when you're trying to dominate your market, you want to understand systematically how it works and find those leverage points where if I am really good at this one particular point, I don't have to be good at everything, but this one particular point, all these other dominoes in my market fall and I can win significantly. I'll give you an example. Zappos, before they were bought by Amazon, they had amazing customer service, like easy return policy, phenomenal people on the phone, great spirit. Were they the cheapest? Nope. Did they have the biggest selection? Probably not. Did they have the most innovative shoes? Nope. They were really good at one thing, amazing customer service, and they won on that basis. And I think you have to really pick within that, what do you want to compete on and be incredibly good at that one particular thing and kind of forget everything else. There are two other bases of competition. One is customer intimacy, which Zappos did. Another is cost, which everybody thinks cost is the way to win, but that's just a great way not to make any money. But you can engineer a business that's designed to be low cost. Think about Southwest Airlines. All the planes are the same. They start cleaning the plane before you get off it. They've got a boarding methodology designed to get you on and off the plane as fast as humanly possible. They don't handle cash on the plane because they know that takes more time. So all of these things are designed to be low cost, and therefore they have the low cost offer in the market. And then the third is innovation, the latest, coolest, newest stuff. If you want to get the neat stuff, come to us. And that might be Google, or nowadays OpenAI, or it used to be 3M ages ago. They had the new cool products. And so you've got to pick one basis of competition that works for your market after you understand your market, that people will really value what you're doing for them. And that's the way to win, is pick your basis of competition, understand that you've got customers that really want what you do, and then be excellent at it. And you can beat your competition, because most people are trying to be good at 2 or 3 things at the same time, which is just a formula to be not very good at any of them.
I was going to ask you, because a lot of companies, because you talk about Zappos, that culture, and then how do you, as a CEO or leader, really, because when you talk about just like being great at one thing, but let's say, and just being excellent at that one thing, how do you prevent FOMO, or just because there's all these different companies competing on different things, and how do you know the one that you're focusing on isn't going to get disrupted? For example, AI or another competitor. Talk about just how you maintain that strategic focus.
Yeah. And that's a great question. And that is the fear of, when I say focus equals growth, people go, I got it, but what about these other opportunities I have? By the way, salespeople are particularly bad at this. Everything looks like an order. Everybody looks like a customer. But you have to have your conviction to say, nope, we're going to be great at this. And you have to have a couple things to be true. It's a big enough market to be interesting and achieve all of our financial objectives that we might have. We can actually be really good at that one thing, like best in class in that one particular thing. You don't want to pick something and you're going to be the 27th best organization at it, because you're not going to win on that basis. And if you do that, you really can move the needle. I think the other element is, what defines an organization is not what they say yes to, it's what they say no to. So if you say yes to everything, you're a wandering generality. You're never going to be great at any one particular thing. But if you say, no, we're going to be great at this, nothing else, you really have an opportunity to build talent and processes to deliver on that promise to the customers. And as long as there are enough customers that want what you are able to do, and I said that's a precursor, you really can build an interesting business. But there is always that fear we're going to miss them. Now, discontinuous change, like you indicate, that's always an issue. And I think when you think about markets, some markets are dynamic, meaning there are rapid rates of change to a level that could obsolete your entire business. There are others that move pretty slowly, and you have to be aware of these discontinuous changes, but they're not going to jump on you without some level of warning. Usually hubris is what gets in the way. But let's say I'm in the chip business, and we've seen Intel was up for a while. Now they're down because they don't have a great processor like some of the other people that are out there, like NVIDIA, for example. So technology caught them, bit them in the tail. Now they've got a problem. They're going to have to play catch up. And that happened over a relatively short number of years. But if I was in the coal mining business, it's unlikely somebody's going to come up with a technology that obsoletes me. It's a slow change industry. It's got regulatory environments around it. I don't need to worry about being jumped on. So I think you have to evaluate your market. Is it a dynamic market, or is it a quiescent market? If it's a fairly quiet market, I want to keep I want to keep an eye on the market and new developments and make sure I don't miss something that's important. But I don't have to be worried about being obsoleted over a couple of years. There are other industries like tech. They can be obsoleted over a couple of years with a new technology. So you have to be on top of it all the time. And that's part of the strategy. How much attention do we have to pay to changes? And that relates to the risk of those changes. If the risk is high and the rate is high, we have to pay a lot of attention to it. If the risk is low and the rate is low, we don't have to spend quite as much time or attention on it.
Yeah. So well said. And it depends on industry. And that's why the CEO leader has to have a vision and keep abreast of constant change and how these forces can affect the company and the business. What was The other interesting was you talked about the valuable do's and don'ts for drinking in a business setting. And you also talk about turning event opportunity into a game-changing move for your company. I'm really interested in this event opportunity. Expand upon that some more.
Yeah. And by the way, the whole drinking thing, people think but I did become a certified sommelier, and I combined 30 years of business entertaining with what I learned about wine and whatnot. And that's where professional drinking comes in. It's how do you drink in a professional setting when you're dealing with clients or investors or whatever, and not embarrass yourself, which a lot of people are worried about. So that's what the book is designed for. And turning events into opportunity, I think this is a little bit of a mindset when things happen, good things, bad things, neutral things. And some people get down. Oh my gosh, that happened. It's horrible. What are we going to do? I think if you change your thinking about it, one line of thinking is, how can I use this crisis to get the organization where I want to get? Because change management is about unfreezing, taking a business that's doing certain things, unfreezing it, letting those molecules move around themselves, if you will, and then refreezing in a better, different state than it was in the first. Now, a crisis, financial crisis, a crisis of competition, a crisis of a loss of a key employee can all be used as a way to unfreeze the organization and generate positive change. And so the phrase is never waste a good crisis. Crises create opportunities for leader to make change that could never be made without a crisis. The old saw is, if I was on an oil platform with you out in the middle of the Bering Sea, and I said, hey, we're going to jump in the water, you'd go, yeah, I'm not jumping in the water. It's cold and it's rough. And why would I ever jump in the water? I'm on this nice oil platform. What if the oil platform was on fire? You'd go, cowabunga, let's go. We're going into the water. And that's my point about a crisis. How do we, when the platform is on fire, you have an opportunity to get people to do things they would never have done before. The other mindset that I think is important when things happen in a business is to ask yourself the question, what is perfect about this situation? So situations are never all bad or all good, but there is always something that's perfect about this situation. And if you identify that, you can leverage what occurs into a positive outcome. So I think those two mindsets of never waste a good crisis and what's perfect about those situations allow you to see any event in your business as a way to move it positively in a direction as a leader. So that's what I was driving at with that line of thinking.
Yeah, I really like that. And it reminds me, especially after COVID, a lot of entrepreneurs that pivoted, they switched to Zoom and, did everything virtually. And a lot of restaurants, did outdoor, and a lot of Uber, DoorDash, and that kind of expanded their business, experimenting with digital media, digital tools, now with AI as well. So we have a few minutes, and I know you've done a lot of work helping entrepreneurs, CEOs, and you aspire to impact 1 million lives positively. So congratulations to that. And how can people find you and follow you, reach out to you, and learn more about you?
We do try to impact 1 million lives positively. That's the goal of our business. And we do that by tracking the total employment of all of the CEOs we work with. And we're around 350, 400,000 people that are literally positively affected every day because these CEOs make better decisions, which we help them make. So it's not just words. We really keep track of it. It's important to us. With regard to trying to get a hold of us, the best place is theceoproject.com, theceoproject.com. You can reach out anytime, or you can send me an email directly at jim@theceoproject.com, and we'll get right back to you. We're obviously available on all the social media platforms, LinkedIn and so forth. You'll find us there. And the book that you mentioned, Great CEOs Are Lazy, is available on Amazon.
Yeah, I really enjoyed this conversation, and all of Jim's resources will be in the show notes. Be sure to check them out. Check out his socials. You can follow. And thanks so much for coming on, and keep up the great work.
Thank you for the time. I appreciate it.